Hello and welcome to another episode of Money Talks. Today I'm going to be going into the Chinese company Alibaba that operates similarly to Amazon in China. Now I'm going to play a little clip that just briefly explains the business of Alibaba and the companies it owns. So here it is.
But Alibaba isn't just an e-commerce company. It owns a vast empire of other tech businesses, and many of those parts help speed up the shipping process. So when you buy a product from its retail website, Alibaba's payment company can process the transaction and then the shipping is handled here. This network allows Cainiao to quickly gather information digitally about your package, including the price, weight, and destination, and then send it directly to Chinese customs to be cleared for export. Over the years, this process has gotten faster, from taking 1 month to clear a package to now only a few minutes.
So that was a brief explanation of what they are. They have a variety of companies, but their main business is e-commerce. So you buy a product on a website, then one of their partner companies, one of the other companies they own, processes the transactions, and then another company handles the logistics of getting it from the warehouse to the customer. They actually have a goal, which is to get all of the products on their site anywhere in the world within 72 hours, which is an unbelievable, remarkable goal for a company to have. And I think that's really inspiring and cool, and love to see it play out. Now, there are, I think, obvious concerns that people will have, and that's what I want to get into with the episode. Alibaba is one of my positions. I hold it in my stocks and shares portfolio, so please consider the fact that I am biased. And please, if you do go to make a decision to purchase this stock, you've got to consider it that this is your investment, that you have made this choice to purchase this at your own risk. So what I'm going to be doing in this episode is there's going to be an intrinsic value element and then go into the fundamental values. So to begin with, I'm going to talk about the intrinsic values, and you're going to see on the screen my process of working out the cost values. So the price of a stock goes up and down, and as one investor put it very well, the market can remain irrational for a very long period of time. I can't remember the exact expression off the top of my head right now, but essentially, don't expect the price of the stock to act rationally, and it certainly isn't at the minute, the Alibaba stock, unless you consider the price rational in regards to people's concerns around China, which we'll get into later in the episode in the fundamentals aspect. But the thing I believe is most important when trying to work out the intrinsic value of a company or the financial value is that although the price of the stock may not act rationally, the earnings and its value to the consumer have a very strong relationship. So if a company managed to increase their value to consumers by reaching more consumers or providing a better service, then their earnings are very likely to go up. And so what we want to see is their earnings going up year after year. And if we can see that, then we know that we've got a company that know how to increase value. And then we want to look into the future and see how they are looking to improve their service. And if we believe that that will be something desirable to us as consumers, then we can trust that even though there may be external barriers to them accomplishing those goals, though if they do accomplish those goals, it will lead to an increase in earnings, because we can see that this would lead to an increase in values. So I'm going to get started and show you. First of all, I thought it'd be interesting to learn about where this first became on my radar. So I brought you to a site called Dataroma. This site pulls data from all the super investors in the world and then correlates them in a really easy to interpret way. So you just got to ignore the big adverts. And what you can see here is at this point, you can see top 10 most owned stocks. I'm very grateful that I never bought Meta, because I really dislike the product Facebook. So I can do another video on that another day if you'd like. But also, so you can see the top 10 most owned stocks, but also top 10 stocks owned by percentage, which I think is really useful. And there are a few companies that I find really interesting, but you can see that on neither list is Baba. If you scroll down, what you can see is top 10 buys in the last 2 quarters and top 10 buys in the last 2 quarters by percentage of portfolio. And Baba does appear in both of those. And so I think that's really interesting to see that investors are not only purchasing this stock at large quantities, but they've been doing it so recently. And the main one that I'm interested in is Charlie Munger, who works with Warren Buffett as part of Berkshire Hathaway. So Berkshire Hathaway, if you don't know it, that is here in the list, highlighted in orange, and also here in the percentage owned portfolio. So incredibly successful company. What they've done really well is just decade after decade, they have got outperformed the S&P 500, which is an incredibly hard thing to do. So although I wouldn't advise investing in a hedge fund, you might want to invest in Berkshire Hathaway. Even though the chaps are very old, I'm sure their wisdom will ensure they hand it down to very good management. But one of the two people that run that firm is Charlie Munger, who is an ex-lawyer and has a very interesting background. I recommend learning about him. But as you can see here, he has just added 99% Baba to his portfolio. He has bought 602,000 shares, which is a lot more than I currently own. But someday, hopefully, I will be as successful as him. But yes, Baba is an enormous position for Charlie Munger. And so he was a big reason as why I bought it. So the financial costs of this is how it came on my radar, and this is because this is a list of people that not only do I trust, but I have been successful not for a year, not for 2 years, but for decades, and have been scrutinized by a lot of big media companies and are definitely very good investors. So if they are purchasing a stock, or if they make it to these top 10 lists, you can guarantee not guarantee, but you can have strong assurances that these have been heavily vetted. And so what I'd like to show you is perhaps my first concern. Actually, I'm going to just get into the financials, and I don't think this is overly important or something that we need to dwell on too long for this stock, because it is very clear that this is a very good stock to invest in from a financial point of view. So what we'll look at here is it's got a PE ratio of 24, which means that it will take, at its current earnings level, 24 years to get your money back. So if you put £1 in, you will have in 24 years time £24. Now, one of the reasons this is a very good PE ratio is because the stocks and shares market is flooded so much at the minute that all PE ratios are quite high across the board. But also what everyone seems to be anticipating is quite a lot of inflation. And so what you can see, how you can tell that is something quite likely to happen, if I take you back to the site Dataroma, you can see in this list that Visa is on both lists, also is high up on the list, sorry, not on both lists, but Visa is a transaction company. It's a very safe bet because even if it's got a high PE, it will adjust with its earnings will adjust with inflation very well, because it takes a portion of every share, every sale. And so if we go back to look at the Alibaba stock prices, back to the earnings, what I want to compare this to a company, so we've got a free cash flow growth of 40% every year, and it's got a return on invested income of 15% a year. So every time it invests, it will grow the invested income 15%, which is absolutely remarkable. And so if we want to compare this to another company, we have Amazon here. They have a price to earnings of 44, and they have a return on invested capital of 6.8. So Amazon do something a bit differently to Alibaba. They own a lot more of the less cost effective parts of the e-commerce business. So whereas Royal Mail might deliver your parcel or handle the delivery aspect, with Alibaba, that would be a UK equivalent. The Amazon rely on their own delivery systems to get them to across your country and to your door. Now that consumes a lot of cost, but it means that they have a lot more control over the quality of the service. What that does mean is Alibaba is able to grow a lot faster and also utilize what I think this is a better system, because they can hold on to the more cost-effective aspects of the business, but also they can grow faster into different regions and also take advantage of competition among delivery companies. So I actually think that over the long term, this will be an excellent thing for Alibaba, even though Amazon are investing really, really well into their delivery vehicles, and they have electric vehicles driving all over London. I think that Alibaba will be able to take advantage of companies like UPS and FedEx being incredibly competitive, and they'll be able to pick which ones they use purely based on which one is best at any given point, so they can switch infrastructure very quickly. I actually think this will be better for Alibaba long term, so that return on invested capital I expect to improve faster with Alibaba than I do with Amazon. However, of the two, if they were the same price with relation to earnings, I would much rather hold Amazon, purely because that's the one that is in my country and I can understand the business better and how it works, and can trust the judgment of the government a lot more easily. However, that leads us nicely on to trusting the government that controls the company, and that leads us on to one of the reasons I do trust the government to a degree with regards to the profits of Alibaba, is because of the comments made. Is because of the comments made by Charlie Munger. So I'm going to go into, he was asked recently on a video forum for Yahoo Finance what his thoughts on the Chinese government were. So I've got the clip here and I'm just going to play it now.
Was quoted, "China is uninvestable, in my opinion, at this point. I've never invested in China long or short. Why is that? I don't trust the data. I don't trust the relationship between the United States and China anymore. I think that investments in China could be confiscated. I think there's a risk of that," end quote. Obviously, with a significant percentage of the Daily Journal's marketable securities invested in BYD and Alibaba, you feel differently. Please explain why you are right.
Well, of course, only the future knows who's going to be right. But China is a big modern nation. It's got this huge population and this huge modernity that's come in the last 30 years. And we invested some money in China because we could get more value in terms of the strength of the enterprise and the price of the security than we could get in the United States. Other people, including Sequoia, the leading venture capital firm in the United States, have made the same decision we have. But I'm sympathetic to Gunlager. If he's nervous, he doesn't have to join us. Different folks have different opinions. I feel about Russia the way he feels about China. I don't invest in Russia, so I can't criticize Gunlock's point of view. It's just I reach a different conclusion. When you buy Alibaba, you do get a sort of a derivative, but assuming there's a reasonable honor among civilized nations, that risk doesn't seem all that big to me. Well, we did it for a very simple reason. We got more strength per dollar invested. In China, the companies we invest in are stronger. I have all kinds of places where I'm just like Warren. I have all kinds of things where I'm not comfortable, and I just don't go near them. I think an old guy is entitled to invest where he wants to invest.
So there it is. There's Charlie Munger's view on the Chinese government. I believe that I am taking a big risk buying a Chinese company, and that I feel as though I understand that risk and I understand a little bit about the Chinese government. I just don't believe that the government want to prevent growth of their companies. What they want to do is just ensure that they have control to prevent them doing anything that is harmful towards their citizens. And if you look at their decision making towards the company, okay, we wouldn't have allowed that over here, and I'm glad we have our type of government, but you can see how those decisions were in the interest of protecting citizens, even if we wouldn't like that sort of control over our choices that the Chinese government have. So I want to go back into doing, that's more of a fundamental thing. I want to go back into the intrinsic value again, the cash flow. I just want to take you to a spreadsheet that I've done. And so in this spreadsheet, I take the free cash flow for 10 years, and then I take the growth of each of those years and I order them here. And then I take the median 3 results and I create an average of the median growth, and that's what comes up here. And so if I just tick there, then I discount that by 50% and I get the discounted growth here. So this is what I expect them to grow. This is a conservative estimate of their growth based on the past 10 years, and that comes to 1.2. And then I do 10 years of growth. This is called intrinsic value calculation, by the way. So if you want to look it up, this is what it's called. I didn't develop this myself. Then you get 10 years of discount growth, and then at the end of it, this is what I could sell it at the end of 10 years for. So I did this number times by 10. So this is assuming no growth over the next 10 years, a very conservative value for what I could sell it for. And then what that does is if you add all these results up, that's all the cash you get for 10 years and the cost of which you could sell it for, all very conservative, but assuming for growth. Then you get the intrinsic value calculation and the market cap. So the intrinsic value, how much cash you'd get for 10 years, and then what you could sell it for at the end of those 10 years added together is 2,165 billion. And what it's currently valued at is 360 billion. And so the margin of safety is the market cap divided by the intrinsic value, which is 0.17. So there is no... What you want to be doing is taking a great business has a very steady amount of growth, and what you can see here is they actually, unlike most companies I look at, they have no years in which they do not grow. And I think this is in part due to companies that are within their portfolio, like Ant Financial, that they just handle transactions, and so they purely make money. They're very much like Visa, and so from my point of view, a company like Ant Financial is like the Chinese Visa, or maybe a better example is Chinese PayPal. And so as prices go up, they will take their commission that they take, 2% or whatever it is, gets bigger and bigger each time. It still stays at 2%, but what people are comfortable paying when that goes up or down, they get the same amount of money or the same amount of transactions or whatever it is, best way to describe it. They just make an absolute killing through that, and then that can benefit their e-commerce business. And so that is how I think they have managed to always maintain some form of growth. And obviously their average growth is brilliant. And they even have years where they make 1.88%. They almost double in some of the years. And then that is without the excessive money printing that has happened over the last 2 years, and what that will do to the market going forward, as well as rising oil prices and stuff like that. That could potentially be a bit harmful to the business, but What I think will happen is that will be more harmful to their competition, and it will push more people towards their services like it would in the UK. I think people are more likely to order from Amazon in a time of recession. And so we've got that to see ahead of into the future. And also what I wanted to compare it to was Amazon. Amazon actually, for me, have a higher discounted growth at 1.32%. So this is what could justify a higher P ratio. However, as the numbers come out, their market cap is so much higher than Alibaba, because Amazon is at 1,517 billion, and their intrinsic value is 4 trillion. That means that Amazon are just overpriced. And so that's why I'm hoping that over the next few months, Amazon will come down in value, come down in price, and get to a point where their margin of safety, that's the thing that I'm really interested in, goes below 20, like it is for Alibaba. And if it does that, that's brilliant. Then that's the point at which I will potentially move all my Baba shares over to Amazon, or just buy a bunch of Amazon stock. Amazon and Apple are the two companies that I'm most interested in right now, but Apple's margin of safety is way higher. However, I do believe that Apple will release the Apple Car. So, okay, another video. I keep getting distracted into other videos, but that's a really quickly boiled down version into how I am pricing the market cap of these companies before making a decision. So the final thing that I want to go into is the future value of the company. So watching various videos on Alibaba, they have a very similar warehouse system to Amazon, and they are very good at automating their processes and optimizing. They have few businesses, so they've diversified the business that they're going into, and I can easily see how they're going to increase their value to consumers. And so that is the main reason at which I feel comfortable purchasing them, is because I can see how their value is going to grow. And so even as their price has gone down, I can see how at the next quarterly earnings, regardless of what the prices are, their value is going to be getting higher and higher. So I'm excited to see that going into the future. This has been why I personally am interested in Baba stock, and how I discovered it, how I began to trust it, how I valued it, and how I priced it, and then why I bought it. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Cheers.